Sarai then. He got in trouble. And now again, remember after the destruction, okay, Shalom. After the destruction of Sodom and Amorah, you read of the incident that we're skipping over, that Lot's daughters, look at me, sir. Lot's daughters thought that the world was destroyed. They brought upon their father to have relations. 2 sons were born called
Moab
and Ammon, that's correct, Ammon and Moab. They later, of course, become nations on the map of the Tanakh. No longer existence today, but that's not the point. And Avram also decided to move to a different place. He moved to a place called Gerar. Today we know exactly where the brook of Gerar is, en route to Gush Katif, where it was the block of settlements in the Gaza Strip, en route to Gaza. Gerar now in this section is under the ruling of the king of the what is it called? The Plishtim. The Plishtim. There you go.
The sea peoples from Crete in Greece.
And you remember the king of Plishtim in this last chapter of chapter 20, which we're skipping over now. Avimelech. It's a general name for the king of the Plishtim. He also abducts in his coarse, in his gross power. He abducts Sarah.
And you said Avimelech
the king of the Plishtim. Those are the general name, like Caesar, Julius, and who else did we see? Names Paro for Mitzrayim. So too, Avimelech is the general name for the king of the Plishtim. And so he gets in trouble. He gets in big trouble. His entire household cannot excrete their waste, according to the Midrash. We see even women cannot even give birth. And he clearly was messing with fire. And God teaches him through a malach, probably through a malach, through an angel, but that's not the point here. How you're going to do tshuva, and that is Aleph, you're going to bring back Sarah. B, you're going to ask Avram to pray for you and your household. Avram is a lover of mankind, like we said before. Does he pray for the household? As you see in verse 17, the end of the last chapter, he prays for Avimelech. And who is healed? It says in verse 17, I'm looking, please turn back to 17, then we'll go straight to our chapter. Vayitpalel Avraham el ha'elokim. And Avram is mitpalel, tfilah. He's praying for judgment, for mercy in the judgment to God. Elokim is the attribute of din, like you said yesterday. Vayirpa Elokim. Do you see the word Vayirpa? Does anyone need a rofei here? What is a rofei?
Healing.
A rofei is a doctor. Vayirpa, and God healed Avimelech. Who else does it say? Ishto, his wife, she couldn't give birth. V'amotav, and the maidservants, Vayeledu, and they gave birth. Meaning, not that moment, that hour, but someone that could not deliver, could only deliver later, which is clearly a tremendous miracle. And as you know, and the Radak says this, the household of Avimelech doesn't lack any doctors to help and experts to help out, but they tried all types of tactics, emergency room, this room, that room. What's the name of that drug that they give to women to try to induce labor?
Epidural.
Epidural, who?
Epidural.
Epidural. Are you a doctor or a nurse? We'll talk about that later.
He's
in any event,
young man.
And therefore, nothing worked. That's what the Radak says. And now we retreat a new chapter, Kaf Aleph, my dear friends. And this is the chapter right before the Akedah. Roll up your sleeves, open up your minds, and let's begin. Chapter 21. The event has ended. Avimelech realized there's a God in the world. He's healed. And let's see who else is healed. Chapter 21. Vadu pakaret Sarah kasher amar. Vayas Adonai leSarah kasher diber. What did God do? Vatahar. Next pasuk. She's pregnant. Wow. She hasn't been pregnant ever. Right? Vatelet Sarah. Mazal tov. She gave birth. To who did she give birth to? LeAvraham. She was pregnant from Avraham, of course. Bain. When? Liskunav. In spite of the fact that he is a Zakain. Namely a old. This is not by the laws of nature. What's more amazing? La Moed, according to the Moed, the time, the appointed time. Asher diber oto Elokim. When did God speak? Who remembers? Asher diber oto Elokim.
Before he destroyed this.
Very good. The angel that appeared, we read at the beginning of the parsha. And the angel says, where's Sarah and this and that? And he announces, Lamoe, to this time, meaning in 1 year from now, you're going to have a mazal tov. And how did Sarah react?
She laughed.
She laughed. Why did she laugh? As we explained the name of the Nachmanides. She thought, what are these dirty people start talking about a woman that they don't even know? She doesn't know that they're angels. Neither did Avram know. And then when Avram approached her and said, what are you laughing for? How did you know I left? She was fearful. And therefore, what did she do? She denied, remember? She said, I didn't laugh. And then Avram says, you did laugh. And then we inferred the rest. She put one and one together. Uh-oh. Those people are not human beings. They are angels. And they informed Avram what I overheard on the other side of the tent, that I'm going to give birth in a year. And that's how that section ended. This is mentioned here. Now, a year later, to the time the angels was there, she gives birth. Before we go to a major question I want to raise, I want to hear your question, Arya.
So regarding angels, right? Is there ever going to be a time where we discuss, how they are, their appearance, like the many eyes,
They're
the no knees?
Very good question. Excellent question. This is
Because
a
I know
major
it's from-
subject between Maimonides in his book called the Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide to the Perplexed, and Ramban, commonly called in English, Nachmanides. And you can see it. I'm going to ask you to open it up. Prepare it yourself if you find the Ramban. The Ramban, Nachmanides in English, it's down below. It's a big blue book, something even thicker than this down below. We have, and read it on the beginning of the parsha when the angels appear. There's a big difference of
Do
opinion.
not be afraid of something? That's what they...
What, sir?
Do they say do not be afraid, or am I mistaken?
I'm not, I don't know what you're talking about, but
When they
that
appear to be-
that's a long subject that right now we don't have the opportunity to deal with, but I'd like you to research that at another time. Nachmanides on the portion of the week. It's in the back corner. My dear friends, what did I put on the board here on the left-hand side? Vayomer and Vayar. Vayomer was the first word of which parsha? Lech Lecha. Vayar is the first word of which parsha?
Vayeira.
No, I made a mistake. I could have written Vayeira, but it's Vayar. What do they both have in common? Vayomer, Vayar. What are they?
It's a perception.
It's no. It's a what?
Perception.
What else? What the style of writing this way? Is that how we talk today? No.
What's in the
A
third
biblical
person?
verb. Vayomer. Vav is and. Yomer, and he said. But the vav turns it from future to the past. Vayar, and he saw. Lifkod is to remember. Lifkod. Lifkod could be to count as well. How would you say the biblical verb, and he remembered?
Lachzor.
No, using the letters Pei Kuf Daled. How would you create a biblical verb with the letters Pei Kuf Daled, Lifkod, Va, Yiv, Kod? Everyone's pronouncing it. 1, 2, 3. Va, Yiv, Kod. Is that the opening of our chapter? Look inside, please.
Chapter?
Is that the beginning? The first? What does it say? Vashem Pakad. Have we lost the place already? I hope not. No, we're back where we are right now in chapter 21. Vashem Pakad. Do you see that? We thought what should have been written, Vayifkod Hashem, and God remembered her, like every other biblical verb. Rather, the fact that it changed the style. Vashem Pakad means already, beforehand, not now. Vayomer, and he said. Vayar, and he saw. When? Right now. Vayifkod, and he remembered. But it says Vashem Pakad. Please, Aryeh. You have a chumash. Very good. Listen to me. Hashem Pakad means and Hashem remembered her already beforehand. What is it teaching us? We got a call last night. Would you please pray for this woman who's in great danger? And you have to pray for people that you know yourself, your close or dear ones. We don't say no. In fact, we know what a great value is to care for our fellow Jew, for our friends. And you know what? Chazal say a following principle. If you pray for someone and you need the same thing, and you're praying for that person who's not your dear member of the family, God, not only may he answer your prayer to heal or to do whatever for that person, but he's going to answer you first. What happened here? Avram, you no good, dirty dog, you Avimelech! You abducted my wife! He didn't say that. He didn't say that, but I got a little excited. I'm a little emotional, as you see. And now Avimelech, the day later, comes and says, would you please pray for me, my wife, and all the household of the parliament of Palestine, because we're all clogged up. All our openings and cavities in our body cannot excrete waste, and we can't even deliver a baby. Avram could say, you go to HE double toothpicks. I'm not going to pray for you. You know what HE double toothpicks is? So you'll tell him later.
Double hockey sticks.
Double hockey sticks. HELL.
Oh.
Didn't the Christians base that off of our...
I don't know. But Avram did not deny, did not refuse. Like a saint of the world, he prayed for them. What does the Torah teach us now, beginning of the new chapter? Hashem Pakad. You know what happened, the result of Avram's prayer? His wife was answered first. And God remembered Sarah. Already remembered Vashem Pakad, a different usage of Vayomer Vayar. Rashi brings this idea. In other words, my dear friends, in virtue of the love of Avram Avinu that decided to accept the offer of Avimelech, and he prayed for him in his household, who was answered? Sarah was answered. What a righteous, more than righteousness, what a saint he is. Okay? So Hashem pakad et Sarah kasher amar. Amar meaning he said that she'll be pregnant. Vayas Hashem l'sra kasher diber. The dibor is the announcement of the malach, the announcement of the angel like you mentioned. Let's go on, please.
Pasuk. I have a question.
Yes.
So about Avimelech,
yes.
Did he find God? Or did
he
just
recognized God after this event.
Uh-huh.
And he dawned upon Avraham cattle and sheep, some say even money, and he begged Avraham to pray for him.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Pasuk bet. Let's follow the reading in Hebrew as well. We have to learn how to read the text. Vatar, we read it already. I'm sorry, read bet already. And the announcement is Pasuk Gimel. Vayikra Avram et Shem beno. He's calling out a name. Hanolado, that was born to him right now. Who? Asher Yaldalo Sarah. Don't make any other mistakes. Not Hagar, not any other woman. This is clearly the what? From Sarah. And what does he call him? Yitzchak. And what's the name? What's the next pasuk saying? Vayamol Avram et Yitzchak beno. The performance of the mitzvah called Milah. What is Milah?
8th day
circumcision. Mr. Amos, close your eyes. What is the order? Circumcision or birth? Circumcision or the calling of a name?
What is the order? He should to first. He should to give the name when he do the or as the what we do now. But I mean, first he put the name and then he circumcised.
So Amos is raising basically a question. We know that first you do the circumcision, and then we call out the name over a cup of wine for today. Okay, it's even before Sinai Beseder, but usually you do the circumcision, then you call out a name. And here the order is, and the question is why? And what's the answer? What's the answer?
Because he should to give his name. He knows the name before.
How does he know the name?
Because the angel told him.
That's right. God already told the name, and we know this clearly. Okay? Everyone remind ourselves, look it up, chapter 17, verse 19. Yud Zayin, Yud Tet. This happens in the section of Brit Milah after the covenant of the pieces. Here it is, chapter 17, verse 19. And Avram is not with the angels, with God. And God says, Sarah, your wife, she's going to give birth to your son, and you're going to call him Yitzchak. This is a very unusual situation. By the way, Yishmael will also, his name was also called in advance. But the name is so clear. So Avram goes according to commandment, and he calls the name right after the birth. Instead of screaming out, nurse, nurse, or something, I don't know how exactly happened. It's immaterial, but The calling of the name is of the essence. And we're going to ask ourselves, why is it of the essence? And we're going to deal with it in a moment. Is that clear to you? The Seder, verses 3 and 4 of chapter 21. You found it, Hirsch? Chapter 21, Kaf Aleph, and verses 3 and 4. And of course, he did it like you said, Reuven ben Shmonat Yamim, 8 days old. Kasher tziva oto Elokim. Avram is careful to perform the tziva, the tzivoy. What is tzivoy? Kasher tziva. Mitzvah from the word tziva. He commanded. Tziva. Okay? Tziva. Avram is precise. What God tells him to do, he does. Shall we continue? What is the greatness of this miracle as we see? Okay? Avraham ben me'at shana, he's 100 years old. Bivalid lo et Yitzchak beno. That's not a simple thing. And remember, between Adam and Noach, people were giving birth at the years of 300, 400, 500, 600 years old. But God changed nature. Now people only living to about 120 years. And therefore, it's not natural at these ages. Sarah is 90 years old. Okay. One second, sir. 1 second, sir. 1 second, sir.
So in
1 second, sir.
still,
Yud. 1 second. What is the Yud standing for? Look at this. Interesting thing. The Midrash says, I saw it in my father-in-law's book. The letters Yitzchak, numerically. Remind me, Yud numerically is?
10.
Tzadi numerically is?
90.
Chet numerically is?
8.
Don't answer the next one. Kuf is numerically? 100. 100, right? Avram Avinu was 100 when he gave birth. Sarah was 90. The Brit Milah was done on day number 8. And Avram Avinu was tested
10
times. Yitzchak. That's a midrash about the name Yitzchak. Did you catch that?
so this is a mystical interpretation of his name?
It's an inner interpretation that the name stands for other things, not only tzchok, laughter, which is happiness and laughter, but here's an interesting midrashic interpretation of the name about Avram's life. My dear friends, let's go on to verse 6.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in the Tanakhic narrative, it talks about how before what was the flood? What was it called? Mabul. Before Mabul, human beings were living for centuries and centuries. But after Mabul, human life diminished. What is the reason for this?
Because man is not on that level that he deserves
No.
such a lengthy life.
No longer allowed to have lengthy life. So in the time of Avraham Avinu,
People are living about 120 years or so. That's
120.
right. Good point. Pasuk 6, we're going on. Pasuk 6, every pasuk verb. Put your fingers on the place. Vatomer Sarah. Here she is, the mother, the new mother, and she says, Tzechok asali Elohim. Kol hashomea yitzachak li. Gentlemen, Sarah understands that she has a universal role as well, like Avram Avinu. And tzchok does not mean belittled laughter or idle laughing. Tzchok here means simcha,
Joy.
joy. Thank you. And happiness. Who gave this joy to Sarah? Elokim, God in his judgment. I've been waiting for this for, every woman, every healthy, natural woman wants to be a mother. It's natural. It's healthy. And that's what she wanted, and she prayed, and she didn't give up. It was difficult. We can't even imagine the mental and emotional taxing in her life that she couldn't give birth. And now, supernaturally, because he and she, Avram and Sarah, stem from the divine entity. They're so attached to God that when they are attached and their security is in God, God will even do supernatural things that are not according to the laws of nature. And therefore, kol hashomea, anyone that hears this, next week, we're going to be reading Chaye Sarah. And Avram will purchase a burial site for his dear wife and for others thereafter. And when he meets up with a major Canaanite figure in the city of Hebron called Ephron calls Avram Avinu, and not by mere coincidence, Nasi Elokim ata betochenu. You're a divine prince amongst us. You're well known, even though there's no Facebook and no internet and no social media. You're well known. Avram is well known across the country. He's met up with kings. Pharaoh of Egypt. Avimelech, the king of the Plishtim. He met up with the 4 kings when he was able to release the POW, his nephew Lot. He met up with Malkitzedek, the king of Shalem Yerushalayim. Avram's life will be to produce a new national psyche, a new universal way of thinking of how to behave, how to treat a nation, how to be benevolent, how to be doing good things. And therefore, they're well known. Anyone that's going to hear me, Sarah says, is going to be so happy because I'm the wife of Avram Avinu. People know who she is and who he is. And they're bringing goodness to this world. Let's see her continued reaction, please, in verse 7. Vatomer, and she says, Mi Milel, who would have thought to say LaAvraham that this would happen to Avraham? Hey, Nika Vanim Sarah, that Sarah's going to be nursing children? Who would have thought about this? Ki aladeti vein liskunav. I gave birth to a son while he's such a zakein. Remember the word zakein? Old man, zakein. Do you see that in the last word of verse 7? Liskunav in his oldness. So therefore, who would have thought about this? Who would have thought that this thing is going to happen? And the question is, excuse me, how do we say in French? Excusez-moi, is that the proper word? Thank you. It says that she is nursing banim, singular or plural, the word banim,
Plural.
whereas the singular is?
Bain. Banaim.
Ben. You can't see it, but she's nursing on the other side of the curtain for reasons of modesty. Is she nursing 1 or 2 or 3? How many is she nursing? Sarah, how many are you? Do you hear several different crying? There's a soloist, there's an alto, there's a baritone there. Do you hear it? She's nursing other babies. I beg your pardon. My dear friends, that's the question we're asking on the word banim. What do you mean she's nursing banim? Chazal answer in light of the next pasuk. They made a party. And when they made a party, ministers of the country of the Middle East brought their little ones, their sucklings. Is that the proper word? Sucklings? It's not used for a human being.
Not used for humans.
I'm sorry, my English is poor. They brought their infants. Is that the proper word?
Yeah.
They brought their infants to the party because they were saying, I'll bet this is not Sarah's child. This is impossible. They probably found it next to the garbage, they collected it from the slum areas, where parents are not aborting, but giving birth and don't care less for their children. That's what they thought. And if that would be the fact, then she would not have the hormonal difference in her body to nurse her babies, correct or not? Okay? And that's what they brought. Many brought, according to the Midrash. And this justifies not the word that she's nursing a ben, but rather, plural,
Banim.
excellent. She's Heinika Banim. And this is Rashi's bringing this in the name of a Talmudic passage in Bava Metzia. And by the help of the Lord, she was nursing several infants, one after the other. We can't believe it, people are saying. What divine intervention in the world. That's Banim. Let's go on, please. Pasuk Chet, verse 8. We're not told about the diapers, and we're not told about the rinsing of the baby. We're told about that the baby's already 2 years old when the mother stops nursing the baby. Pasuk Chet. Vayigdal hayeled. He's no longer how do you say the word baby in modern day Hebrew? Tinok. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
He's no longer a tinok. He is a yeled. A yeled is someone that doesn't need to be nursed, doesn't wear diapers anymore. He's a child. Vayigdal hayeled. He grows up. Vayigamal. And he is weaned. Is that the word they're using? Vayigamal. Okay. According to Chazal, our sages in the oral Torah, 24 months. 24 months. I won't forget. I think it was our last child, our 5th son. Thank God, my wife, she's a career mother. She loves her children, and God blessed us with 5 boys and 4 girls. Thank God. And everyone was nursed. We never saw in our house a bottle that babies drink from. Never. And the last one, and she would do full nursing. And the last one, I think he was like between 2.5 and 3 years old. He was like almost like a monkey jumping on her, wanting to drink her milk. I never saw that in all the kids before that. He was gigantic already in size, and he wanted to go at her breast and take and drink milk. But then 2 years was like, until they would stop nursing. And you see, sometimes there's something unusual things that happen. Now he's 17 years old. He just got his driver's license. He's about to be 17 in 5 days. He got his driver's license 2 weeks ago. Thank God. Before we go on to verse 9, Mr. Hirsch, you wanted to ask? No, I'm still in the middle of the pasuk, and then I'll treat the question, sir. So the child grew up. The infant grew up to be a child. Why is Avram making a banquet? Mishteh from the word lishtot. Lishtot?
To drink.
To drink. There are drinks. Schnapps, some wine, some what is it called? The JB? Is it called JB? What do you call that? Whiskey?
Jim Beam.
Jimmy.
Jim Beam or Jack Daniels.
Isn't there JB, Jewish booze? I'm just joking. No, there is a JB. There is a JB. No, it's not my joke. I've heard it before. And anyway, a big banquet. Biyomi Gamelet Yitzchak, the day that Yitzchak is weaned. Why is it important for the Torah to share with us, Avram's party habits? What is it in for us? Why is he making this tremendous party?
Baby shower.
What, to get presents? No. Avram is not one that wants to get gifts. Remember, he denied being donned upon all these gifts from the king of stone, not even a shoelace. Why is the Torah treating us this so? Why is it so vivid? This party, this banquet. It should be an obvious answer, I think. The future of the world is in Yitzchak, is in this child. Yeah. The future, as we're about to see a further promise from God interfering in a couple that has an argument going on, Avram Avinu versus Sarah Imenu. We're going to see the difficulties raising two children that seem to be going after two distinct cultures, diametrically opposite from one another. So there's a big banquet, there's a big party here, and people will know that this is a divine entity. This is not natural, human, regular persons, but rather something above and beyond, as we've seen all these events before. Mr. Hirsch, your question.
Okay, so the values of Yud, Sadi, Heth, and Chof. So that the Heth, it represents the 8 days of the circumcision, but the Sadi and the Chof, what do they represent again?
I'll repeat according to the order, okay? Avram Avinu went through 10 major trials, as the Mishnah tells us in chapter 5 of the ethics of our fathers. Ethics of father, you can find it in your Siddur, I'll show you later. Tzadi, who was 90 years old, supernaturally above.
Abraham.
90 was Mrs. Sarah, gave birth. The Brit Milah was done at the 8th day, which is Chet, and Avram Avinu was 100 years old. Okay, we're back going to verse 9. Gentlemen, the two kids are growing up. Notice what happens. Vayeira Sarah et ben Hagar mitzrit asher yada le'Avram mitzachet. Read it again, please, yourselves.
Yeah, Yishmael's making fun of Yitzhak.
Okay. Sarah notices, and Sarah noticing and not.
So Abraham was 90?
No, I've only said it's 100. Sarah's noticing this behavior. Who is not? Who's not noticing this?
Abraham.
It's obvious because it says Sarah notices this. That there's a Ben, that he's related to Hagar. What is this new for us? We don't know who this Ben is, as the mother is Hagar. And who is Hagar? Hamitzrit. She's an Egyptian. What's the matter? Are you a little prejudiced? Are you a little, what is this, name calling thing? That we know that she's from Egypt.
Yeah, just like
Asher Yalda LaAvraham. I gave Hagar over to my husband so that I can have a child. In this house, as we're about to see, two different cultures are growing up. Sir, please be patient. There's the Mitzrayim culture inside the house of Avraham, which is very coarse, very rude, very full of physical power, with very few values. And there's the Abrahamite culture here, the spirit of faith in God, monotheism, goodness, benevolence, patience, mercy. What was Sarah's notion in the beginning? You know what's going to prevail in this household in the future? When these two cultures meet, she was hoping Hagar's going to give birth. She's clogged up. She can't have a child. What was the hope of Sarah? That the Abrahamite culture in this house, the spirit of Avraham Avinu, will be victorious over the negativity of the Mitzrayim culture. Is that clear to us?
Mm-hmm.
She made a mistake, though. Mm-hmm. She made a mistake. And I want to share with you some important Hebrew role. Yes, I know the word litzchok means
To laugh.
to laugh. And I know that the new boy, who's a few years old already, is called
Yitzhak.
And Yitzhak, we said, means?
Laugh.
I hope you're going to say something else. What did we begin to say? She laughed negatively in the tent. And now she understands that this is divinely made, and she's laughing again. There are different types of laughter. There's laughter. I know some people, you probably never met them. They're just jokers all their lives. Just joking around. There's no values. And they poke fun. Is that the tzchok of Sarah? Rather, you said it's the tzchok meaning. You said it 10 minutes ago. Joy.
Joy.
You said it. Do you deny that, sir?
No, I do not.
I'm happy. Because we have two witnesses right standing sitting next to you. The tzchok of Sarah is joy. Happiness. Being more complete and closer to God. Litzchok is to laugh. That's the binyan kal. That's the simple tense. However, litzachek always means to uproot something.
Mhm.
For instance, a shoresh, a root in the ground. Let's talk about gardening, right? Every plant, every tree has root in Hebrew. Hello, shoresh. A root in Hebrew.
Sure.
What?
Shoresh.
Shoresh. Look at this. Le sharesh. Le sharesh. Do you know what le sharesh means? It's to do the opposite of the root. It means to
Take it out.
take it out, uproot it. So too, litzchok and litzachek. Litzchok is to laugh. It could be out of joy. But do you know the prerogative, the objective of Mr. Yishmael? That there be no connection to God in this house. He wants to uproot the joy. That's what the laughter, what you can say a simple word, but the inner meaning is litzachek. Is that what it states in the end of your pasuk, like in my chumash? So, my dear friends, as I explained before, we have a Yishmael who's described here that he comes from two different natures. The nature of Mitzrayim culture and the nature of Abraham type of culture. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, in his great commentary down below there, you have it there next to the Ramban, he's the one, in his name, am I saying what I said a few moments, again, I'm repeating it, please. Sarah thought that the spirit of Avraham in this house will dominate, will overcome the negativity of the spirit of which culture? Mitzrayim. However, she was mistaken, according to this. As Rav Shimshon first says. Yes, Mr. Amos.
Yeah, I have written metzachek. That's the difference.
Yeah, I wrote it here in the infinitive.
Oh, I got it.
Letzachek.
Okay.
Le charesh.
Mhm.
Le, the lamed comes in the infinitive two, right? The le is two. You've seen that before. Are we ready to go ahead in the next pasuk? Yes.
Can I just point out that's so fascinating? It reminds me of a verse in Mishlei where it says, "Cast out the lates, and contention will cease."
Wow. My father-in-law, in his article in this book that I have published I'm sorry, that he published. I'm sorry, that he has a fascinating family. I'm marrying to this wonderful family. He has an article on this part about this pasuk that you're bringing.
Wow.
I wanted to try to show it to you later in the
I would love
pasuk.
to see it.
You deserve a cup of coffee or something else. Okay, so we're getting the point. Aryeh, you wanted to say something?
No.
We're now, yes, Hirsch?
So this might be a bit pedantic, but within the context of the Tanakhic narrative of Hagar, as she came coming from Egypt, two of the native peoples of Egypt, either Coptics and Nubians. Which one did sages ever consider what her ethnicity specifically was? Was she one of the Coptic people or the
I don't know
Nubian
enough
people?
midrash to tell you that.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
If
you.
such a question is even something worth
I
asking.
can ask. We're ready to proceed. Thank you. Pasuk Yud. Gentlemen, this mother sees what's happening in the childhood of the two children. Sarah, remember what King Solomon says in Mishlei as well. Bina chokhma banta beita. Wisdom is building her house. There are times and often that women have intuition, intelligence, or wisdom that they have. I'm sorry. Bina yetera. The Talmud says on that pasuk, additional intelligence and understanding was given to women. Let me explain. Without this being a Chabad commercial, right? Chet bet dalet, chokhmah, wisdom, bina, intelligence, and da'at, knowledge, right? Chabad, yes, are you with me? Bina, intelligence, from the word lehavin, which means lehavin, to understand. Lehavin, repeat the word. Lehavin. Bina is intelligence, you understand. Chazal explained on a very simple level. What is bina? If I give you information and you can deduct other matters from this, you have the power of deducing this point from this point. That's called bina, to understand one thing from another thing. She is using her bina. She sees the present situation. It's going to be a catastrophe in a few more years from now, culturally, spiritually, morally, ethically. And therefore, she's ready to give an order to her husband. Let's read it. Pasuk Yud, verse 10. Vatomer le'Avram, and she says, but she's speaking gently. This shows us how a husband and wife should speak. Vatomer. Remember we said the difference between le'emor, to say, and le'daber, to speak difficultly. Dibur is to speak hard, the Talmud says. Vayomer is to speak gently. How are you going to speak with your future wife? Vayomer. Thank you. Vatomer le'Avram, and she says to Avram, but she gives an order. Look at the three-letter word in Hebrew, garesh. Garesh. If you don't get along with your wife and you have to cut the marriage, and you issue her, what is it called in Mishnaic language?
A get.
A get. Spell the word. Not G-D. Gimel.
Gimel tet.
Gimel tet. What is the word though in the biblical Hebrew? Gerushin. Ligaresh. To divorce. Ligaresh. To chase away.
That's like the get.
Get is Mishnaic word, give her a bill or that ceases the contract. Vatomer le'Avram, follow the reading, please put your finger on the place. Garesh. Wow. She's very, in verse number 10. Vatomer le'Avram, Garesh. Drive him out. Who? What did she say? Drive who out? Next two words. Ha'amah hazot, this maidservant. V'et bina, and her son. What's your question right away?
Say her son.
Oh.
What?
Why does it say her son?
No.
Whose son? What does she mean? Drive out the maidservant and her son.
Why not Avram's son?
She said, very nice. Beautiful question. She doesn't say that he's Avram's son. And furthermore, she doesn't call the kid by the name. You're learning beautifully, gentlemen. Mamash. You're learning beautifully. You're asking the excellent questions. She says, drive out the Amma, this maidservant, follow. Vet bena. And she explains why. Key. Since, because. Lo yirash ben ha'ama azot, a second time. He, this kid, the son of this maidservant, again, she refuses to call the name. He will not inherit imbini with my son, Imitzchak. So let's remind ourselves the question. Sarah is not mentioning Yishmael's name. And she does not mention, like you said too, that Yishmael is the son of Avraham. We want to know why. Furthermore, we can use our power of understanding that if Sarah is saying right now that this kid, which is referring to Yishmael, will not be the spiritual inheritor of Avram Avinu, that means according to Hagar, you follow what I'm saying? According to Hagar, and we know that Yishmael is about 13 years old. He had a Brit Milah done at the end of last Parshat, 13, let's say he's 13 or 14 years old right now, yes?
Yeah.
So if during 13 years, until the birth of Yitzchak, Hagar, it's clear to her who will get the inheritance of Avraham. We're not talking about money right now. We're talking more about the spiritual heritage of the world that God is giving through Avraham Avinu. The Sforno says this, that Mrs. Hagar thought that he's going to be the inheritor. Now, do you understand why she doesn't even bother saying the name? My dear friends, Hagar did not recognize that this child is the child of Sarah, born to Abraham. She denies it.
But he was, though. Like
We know he was, and the Torah is admitting. But she wants to still demise a plan. She wants to coordinate a plan that Yishmael will be the inheritor.
Yeah.
You know, Hagar left Mitzrayim, Egyptian culture, because she saw the godliness in this person, Avraham Avinu. And that's why she would want to be a servant, not independent, to a great divine man, as opposed to being a princess in Pharaoh's house. That's why she left Egyptian culture. She'd prefer to be a servant in the prince of God, rather than being a princess in a human being's house. And she's thinking, and think that this is all a lie. This is all, I don't know, maybe the Russian communists or in the KGB is involved. I don't know who's involved in here. There's some other ulterior matters here. And therefore, since she denies, Hagar denies the birth of Yitzchak from Avraham Avinu, Sarah emphasizes here, my father-in-law teaches me, that this child is only related to Hagar. And Hagar is not the wife of Avram, the real wife of Avraham Avinu. She is a shifcha. Mishnaic language.
Pelegish.
1 second. No, not Pelegish.
Oh.
Shifcha in Mishnaic language. Amma in textual Tanakh. Shifcha is a maidservant. Pronounce it. Shifcha. And Amma is a Tanakhic word. That is in 1 second,
what's
sir.
the difference between
So
that and
1
Pelegish?
second, sir. Therefore, Sarah is emphasizing here that this Yishmael is related to Hagar, who's a Shivcha, and not to Avraham. Therefore, he has no right for what? Inheritance. No right for inheritance. Furthermore, the sect of jokers in this society, like you brought, kat leitzanim, the leitzanim, that's the word that King Solomon uses in Mishlei. There is a sect or a group of jokers in the world and denying miracles of God and always looking for a rational or natural explanation for events happening. And you know who is one of the big head honchos in this group? Yishmael. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yishmael, he wants to be the lone inheritor of Avraham Avinu's house. And all these things that are uplifting Yitzchak, and this is the divine choice, he is denying this. He's like the head of the jokers. You, Avraham Avinu, yeah, you're the father of this child, of Yishmael. It's not easy. Your wife tells, let's get rid of this kid. Doesn't say, let's get you. She orders him. Wow. My dear friends, what would you do if your wife tells you, let's get rid of this kid? You're waiting for this kid, till he's 90 years old. He's more than 13 years old now. Pasuk Yud verse 11. Vayeira. Look at the first word again in Hebrew, please. And tell me the shoresh, the root of the word. Verse 11. The first word, what's the obvious shoresh, the root of the word? Ra. Which, let me hear your Sephardi pronunciation from Shlomi.
Ra.
Ra. Let me hear that ayin. We as Ashkenazim, we have a difficulty. You do it very well. There you go. The ra, ayin. It's a guttural, right? The ayin is a guttural. Yes? Vayeira hadavar. This story is bad for him. Me'od. Look at the superlative being used. Vayeira hadavar me'od be'einei Avram. Why is the Torah using the term the eyes of Avram? This idea is bad in the eyes. What does it mean? The eyes of Avram.
His
His
vision.
point of view.
His point of view, the spiritual intelligence.
Okay.
I think in many different, tell me also in the Czech language, do they use the same idiom? Do you see what I'm saying? Do they use the same
They don't
expression?
use it.
In the other, in European language, they don't use the word?
Oh, I thought you meant in the translation.
No, but that's obvious, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Are we referring to the Septuagint?
We're asking to intelligence. Do you
Right.
see what I'm saying? It's used in many
Yeah,
languages.
right.
Is it used in Russian?
Yeah, we can use that. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is
We
used?
don't use
Yeah,
it this way.
What?
We don't use the. Do you see? We understand. We say like, are you seeing it?
So it's the same thing. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. Avram's intelligence, this is bad news. I'm the father, alodot benah, regarding his son. My dear friends, I want to just add to you, inside this house, two definitely different cultures growing up. The Midrash shares with us that they have a rivalry with one another. It's not softball, it's not baseball. The rivalry is who will inherit the land of Israel, the land of God. It's not just the spiritual, divine values of life. It's the land of Israel, which God has promised to Abraham. And therefore, it has to be understood. It's a two-level rivalry. The spiritual inheritance of Avraham Avinu and the land of Israel that God has promised to Avraham Avinu. My dear friends, it's such a difficult decision for Avram. God has to intervene. Let's see it. Pasuk Yud Bet, verse 12. Okay? Do you understand? Because of this family dilemma between Avram and Sarah, God and apparently Avram is not willing to comply. He's not. It's too. It's such a hard thing. What does God do? Let's read together verse 12. Pasuk Yud Bet 12. Vayomer Elokim El Avram. Which name of God is being used?
Judgment.
Elokim, judgment. Not Yud Kei Vav Kei, not the four-letter name. Elokim, verse 12. Do you see it, Hirsch? Vayomer Elokim El Avram. God says to Avram, Al Yeira Be'einecha. Don't have this something as bad in your eyes. Al Hanar, about this young lad. Valamatecha, and your maidservant. Why? Kol asher tomar eilecha, whatever she says to you, Sarah, shema bekola. Listen to her kol. Her kol is not bikol. Shema bekola. Doesn't say lishmoa le. Often the preposition, the verb lishmoa, to hear, tishma le. Listen to me. The preposition li, not be. So why is the Torah changing? Various verbs have different prepositions, connections to the verbs. It says Shema Bikula. She has a special call. Listen into her voice. She has the call of Ruach HaKodesh. She has the call of prophecy, the voice of prophecy. What she knows is the truth. My friends, there's an idea that our sages teach us, and Rashi brings it, that from here we learn who was on a higher level of divine inspirational prophecy. She was. Wasn't Avram a prophet? Of course he was a prophet. So how would she know things that he doesn't know? There's divine inspiration and there's prophecy. Even though Rashi does use the word that Avram was subordinate to Sarah in prophecy, and that's a little wonder. But Avram Avinu is in the higher level. Let me explain the following. Avram Avinu was a public activist. He was all over the place, calling out in the name of God, lecturing, sermoning, giving out values, hosting, kindness. For times of prophecy or divine inspiration, the more you're alone, the more you're secluded from society, there's a greater chance you might be on a high level. Sarah was more or less out of her great modesty and God-fearingness. She was not a career woman as an attorney, a carpenter. Okay, she was where? What's the word in Hebrew? Ba'ohel. Remember the question the angels asked, Ayeh Sarah ishtecha, where is Sarah your wife? Vayomer ba'ohel. And Abraham answered, she's in the tent, showing her modesty. Because of that, the Netziv Volozhin explains, if I remember correctly, that she was able to reach a certain level of divine inspiration And she knew clearly. It wasn't just her human intuition and intelligence that this is not going to work out, these two kids. But she also was able to tap on to divine knowledge and said that this kid has to be chased out. That's what God tells Avram Avinu. He intervenes. God intervenes to Avram Avinu. What she tells you, you must listen to her. And now the key phrase. Everyone look, please, with your own two eyes at the ending of verse 12, the last 5 words. Ki v'yitzchak yikarei lecha zara. I repeat. Ki v'yitzchak yikarei lecha zara. Here is a declaration by God to Abraham in prophecy that in Yitzchak will your seed be called, namely, your spiritual heritage, your divine wealth is not going to be through Mr.
Ishmael.
It's going to be in Yitzchak and not in Ishmael. It's very clear. There are two kids that have a rivalry. Otherwise, God wouldn't have to cut the matters right and say it's going to be in Yitzchak, meaning it's not going to be in. No. Now, is he a rotten kid? He is rotten, but he has rights. His father is Avram Avinu. We already learned that how will he be blessed in the end of last Parsha? How many princes will come out of him? Who remembers? 12 Nisiyim. Very good, Amos. 12 princes will come out of him. Furthermore, here's a blessing to Ishmael. Verse 13. V'gam, and also, et ben ha'ama. Again, the name is not even mentioned because we don't want to relate him to Avram Avinu. Apparently, the Torah is saying, et ben ha'ama legoy asimenu. I will make him, I will place him into a goy. Goy means?
Nation.
A nation. With a distinct culture, language. Ki zaracho, it's your kid, it's your zera, it's your seed. It could be, as I learned from my dear father, Rabbi Horowitz, that to chase out, drive out the midwife, the maidservant, and the kid, it could be a physical danger involved here. Okay? There's no welfare checks coming in through the internet there. Who's a supply of water, food, and so on and so forth. There could be a physical danger. God says, no sweat. No sweat. It's on me. I'm going to make him into a great goy asimeno. It doesn't say gadol. No, I go back what I'm saying. So, my dear friends, this is the shore until now. Some other questions, if you have time to go further.
So Tanakhically speaking, Ishmael is not meant to inherit Eretz Israel.
Absolutely not that, and not the spiritual inheritance of Avram Avinu.
Yeah, but however, what did God have in plan? What else? So did he have like an alternative path planned for him? Or?
There's no alternative. This is the plan for him. Okay. And God is revealing it now. They're going to expand and expand and expand. And that's their job.
The nation.
To settle the world. But obviously to bring goodness. Right now, what do we see?
Yeah.
That they're bringing evil and murder and violence to the world. Many of them.
So instead of inheriting Abraham's house in Eretz Israel, Ishmael instead, Abraham said, "Okay, instead
now it's time to leave.
Your own nation.
It's
your
time
own
to
house,
leave.
buddy. Get out of my house." That's what
time to leave.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Then he was 2 years old, the Yitzchak, and Ishmael was 17, right? Around
13?
Right now, we knew that before he was 13 years old. I don't know if it's a 13 or 14, a 14-year-old gap. I don't remember. I have to look up and see if there's something in the Midrash here.
And then Abraham saw the two kids. One is old, and he already know who is he, and this one is only 2, and he don't know what is he.
Look, it could very well be that Avram Avinu did not know in an overt way the bad actions of Yishmael. Sarah did. Could be obvious that he was doing idolatry, doing other terrible things, and they were not apparently overt to the eyes. This behavior was not overt to the eyes of Avram Avinu. And he's a joker, and he could be a hider of things. And all the shorashim, the roots of bad character traits, apparently are in Yishmael. Great rabbis are talking about that. And we're learning about this. So we're going to have to stop here. Our plan, B'ezrat Hashem, for tomorrow is Tanakh in the morning. We're going to study Yoshua, chapters 11 and 12. In our Haftarah shir tomorrow afternoon, you can hit the thing. We're going to study the Haftarah, and we'll also study matters of the next chapter, which is the Akedah. we'll study that tomorrow. It'll be on Zoom or